Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the introduction. I want to thank the organization very much for inviting me. It's a big honor, and I'm very happy to be here. As Ramon already said, I'm a game developer. I make computer games for the MSX. I made several games over the last 20 years, and this talk is about my experiences working on these games, either solo or in a team. Some games I made were completely solo, some games I made were in a team, some games I made were solo by choice, and some I made in a team by choice. There's a huge difference between working solo on a game and working in a team. And especially working in a team, there are a lot of additional unexpected difficulties, and that's basically what I want to talk about. So there's a big gap between the technical aspect of working on a game and the teamwork aspect. For me, it started in 2005. I got reconnected with the MSX system, which I played a lot on as a kid. I started visiting MSX fairs again in Nijmegen in Netherlands, where I am from. And at a certain point, I said to myself, I want to make a game. I'm not exactly sure what sparked this, but I was just very curious. So I had no experience at all, and I decided that the game I wanted to make has to be one of the most complicated games ever. So immediately I skip all the small steps and I want to go immediately to the top. As far as games on the MSX is concerned, I love many games. I played many games, but one game was always outstanding for me, and that was a game from Konami called Spaceman Bow, a horizontal space shooter. And the MSX is an 8-bit system, but this game always looked 16-bit to me. It's mind-blowing, all the techniques that are used in that game, and everything about that game, I give it a 10. The music, the gameplay, the graphics. This game was so amazing, and I enjoyed it so much playing as a kid, and all those feelings, all those memories that I had when playing this, I wanted to translate into my own game. So I said to myself, I'm going to make a sequel to Space Mambo. Somebody who doesn't have experience should be very humble. I was very humble. I never expected or planned to make the sequel equally fantastic as the original. My goal was, if I can make something that comes even a little bit close to the original, and people who then play it will get that feeling and that emotion that I had when I played the original, then I'm more than happy. That's more than what I can ask for. Okay, so no experience. Where do you start? I knew a little bit of MSX Basic, tiny little bit. I knew how to read out the keyboard. I knew how to make some sprites, a bit of graphics. So struggling and working and trying and experimenting, and it took me about a week until I had a little playable demo in Basic with a ship flying around with a background scroll, just some scrolling in the top and in the bottom of the screen, reading out the keyboard so the ship could fly. I ripped some music and a music replayer online. I had music, and I was already with big eyes, super happy, super amazed. But quickly I realized MSX Basic is not gonna be. It's not going to be possible to make such a cool game in MSX Basic. It's too slow. It lacks a lot of functionalities that machine code that assembly has. I was talking to a lot of people on the forum of msx.org, so I connected with a lot of people. I didn't know anybody, but within no time I was having conversations with 10, 20 people about this project. I was very enthusiastic and I tried to radiate that enthusiasm. Plus I was looking obviously for help, a lot of help. Initially, my first post was, who wants to help me make this game? I'm looking for graphic designers, musicians, artists, anybody. But since I didn't even know how to program assembly, since nobody knew me, since I didn't have anything to show for, since I didn't have any games made, there was nobody who joined the team, but everybody who had knowledge was interested in sharing it. And that was a huge help for me, and I could never have done this without the community. For instance, I went to the forum and I said, yeah, you guys are all right. I figured it out. This is not possible in MSX Basic. So what now? Learn assembly. Here's an assembler. Here's the manual of the MSX chip. Here's a manual of the MSX video processor. Go read, go study. And my method is always, I don't want to read, I don't want to study, I want to make a fucking cool game, and I don't want to get lost in how does this chip work, how does that chip work. So my goal is always very simple. Was back then very simple and is now very simple. One small goal at a time. What's the first goal if you want to make a game like this? For me, in assembly, I want to know how to put a pixel in the screen. That was my first goal. How do I put one pixel in the screen? Because I know that if I put one pixel in the screen, I can put 2 pixels in the screen. I can fill the whole screen with pixels. I can put images, whatever I want in the screen. I can start making on the scroll and slow down. Okay. So 1 pixel on the screen in assembly, in MSX Basic is super simple, but in assembly, it took me about a week of figuring out how to put 1 pixel in the screen. A line of code, unbelievable. So much instructions. And I started to realize this language is fucking insane. Who wants to, people who want to make games and are restricted by BASIC and they want more speed and more control. So it was not a choice at a certain point. Okay, let's do it, let's go through that. After 1 week, I had this line of code, I managed to put a pixel in the screen. I figured out how that works, how the video processor works, how the whole architecture of the MSX works. Second pixel on the screen. Let's make some drawings, let's make some maps, some tiles. And within no time, I started working, programming on a background scroll, a horizontal scroll, which is a whole challenge by itself. Every next frame, you have to build up 1 column of pixels and repeat that and repeat that. But I was starting to get there, and then the next goal, and the next goal, and the next goal. So everybody has their own work style. Find what is unique for you, and always focus on your motivation. And my motivation, as I said in the beginning, is I want you guys to get that thrill, that enthusiasm that I felt. And second part of the motivation is basically the art of creating something, whether that's a game or a piece of music or any piece of art, a painting, a sculpture, furniture, it doesn't matter. Whenever you create something unique, it gives a sense of satisfaction. At least for me and for many people it does. That's my motivation, and I always focus on that, and I always go back to that. So within, I don't know, maybe a month or so, I had this first level running. you see the horizontal scroll. There's a little scoreboard in the top. There's a split screen that divides the scoreboard and the playing area. The camera that shows the playing area is smaller than the actual height of the playing area. So there is a vertical offset register on the MSX which allows you to move a little bit up and down. So even though I only programmed a horizontal scroll with this vertical offset register, I kind of simulated already a little bit vertical scroll. So that was great, and at that point I was thinking now it's time to unleash the freak. In other words, I always have these wild ideas of, oh, can try this and try that. Sometimes late at night in bed I'm thinking about, oh, I could try this and that, all these crazy ideas that I want to implement. So the next step, for instance, was I have now a horizontal scroll. Let's try a vertical scroll. So the second level has a vertical scroll. Then I was thinking about diagonal scroll in this screen mode, screen 5. There's not a game on the MSX that I can think of that has omnidirectional scroll. So that basically, whenever the camera moves, the game area is being built up vertically as well as horizontally. All the games I can think of either scroll horizontally, have a horizontal build-up, or vertically. And the reason for that is that it becomes slow if you want to combine that, plus it's incredibly difficult to program that. So I tried, but I gave up on that. But I did think to myself, is there a way that I can fake diagonal scroll? So there's only one level in the whole game in which I had this idea. What if I have a play area that repeats over and over the same screen? There's a small tunnel of 45 degrees, and we only scroll horizontally, but this vertical offset register just scrolls, rotates vertically through the screen, which then gives the illusion of I'm scrolling diagonally. So this is my camera. There's a little bit which is off the camera. I repeat that as long as you want, and then the result is I'm only building up the screen horizontally. So there is technically only a horizontal scroll here, but I create the illusion of a diagonal scroll. And at that point I'm already freaking out, like, woo, I'm fucking doing it, I'm doing it, you know? And it feels like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was my dream, but I had these aspirations and I just wanted to make an awesome game, and it was all coming to fruition, and I'm super happy. So I have my horizontal scroll, I have a vertical scroll, let's make a seamless transition. Awesome, that works. Let's geek out more, and I was going into complete geek mode. I'm thinking I have this fucking scene, what about I turn this into a parallax scroll. I want this to scroll faster, I want the middle to scroll slower. Okay, let's try to find a smooth transition. Let's add a big monster. Half of the monster is software sprites, the other half is hardware sprites. Things, bullets, everything. And this seems like a small fight, and this doesn't look initially when you play it like the biggest thing ever, but this is the biggest achievement in this whole game. That all these elements, a parallax scroll, a huge monster, everything comes together. So I'm thinking a few more levels, a few more geek things, and then I'm done. Then I got a nice idea of having an animated background scroll. But the MSX is not capable of building up the entire screen, in other words, animating everything that you see. So there has to be a trick for that. Exactly. Palette switching. Basically, if you have 5 colors and you put them next to each other, just 5 lines, if you just make 2 black, and the next frame, the next 2 black, and the next frame, the next 2 black, and you move that back and forth, then you simulate or you get the illusion of an animation, but all you do is just change the colors of the palette. Next, last one. So far I scrolled horizontally and the camera was smaller than the playing field. This time I said to myself, you know what? Let's leave the camera the same size as the playing field, so I have less to build up outside of the camera. If the video processor has less to build up, there's more free time, and that free time can then be used to, for instance, speed up the scroll. I can build up the screen faster. So one level of the game has a scroll that is twice as fast as the rest, and then I was happy. I released it, and huge achievement. 2007 I released it, and then I was like, damn, I'm done. I did my contribution to the MSX community and everybody happy, I'm happy. And then 2 years later, my fingers started tingling again. Let's touch this. And I'm never really happy with assembly because it's so hard. As I said, putting one pixel in the screen, it's not that fun language. But my fingers were tingling and I was like, you know what? Let's try to work on another project. I have so many cool ideas. I made an engine. I showed the engine to Robert Vroemesse, who is sitting here, graphic artist. He was immediately amazed by the engine, and he said, I'm on board, I'm going to do the graphics. Manbo 2 was in screen 5. This game is in screen 4. Screen 4 has limitations with its graphics, but is super fast. It's a tile mode, so just by writing 1 byte to the video memory, to the video RAM, you put a whole tile of 8 by 8 in screen. So if I can build up a screen super fast, then how about I do that with 2 layers? I create a parallax scroll in screen 4, and that should be doable really fast, 60 frames per second. Maybe even if it's 30 frames per second, I'm happy. Next to that, I was like, okay, now some people know me, so now maybe I can assemble a team. And my thought was, hey, if I have a team, and the bigger the team, the better the end product will be. And yeah, you have to learn from your mistakes, because it doesn't work like that. I'm going to explain what happened in this project. So of course I'm thinking each member brings a unique set of skills. That person is extremely good at graphics, that person is extremely good at music. Combine everything, you have a cool product. In theory, that's the case. Every aspect of the game will then improve. Little in-game footage. So this is screen 4, parallax scroll. This is in 30 frames per second. I think the scroll itself worked in 60 frames per second, but adding also enemies, this is a bit of a bare level. You don't see much enemies here. But the point is, we dropped it to 30 frames per second, and still it goes incredibly fast. Even at 30 frames per second, I had people comment, it goes too fast. You run so fast that when an enemy enters the screen, before you react, you already bump into it. So some people enjoy the game better at 50 hertz. You can select 50 or 60 hertz at the start of the game. Okay, so what happened? Because if I go back, you see here 2009, 2020, 11 years. Obviously, we're not working 11 years on a game. That's madness. So, sorry, I've been a bit sick, sorry. So it starts with team assembly. As a programmer, I'm looking for people who join the team. I start with Robert Vroemesse graphics. Then I have my mind set on certain people that I've gotten to know in those years. For instance, I contacted Maarten Wolf, in my opinion, one of the best sound guys on the MSX. I said, hey, I want you in the team. I contact the guy for additional graphics. I contact a guy for building maps. I contact a guy for creating sound effects. And I'm thinking, the more the better, the more the better, because more people means more productivity, which means the game will be finished faster, will be better. But in the end, we had a bunch of people and there was just chaos because I had no experience with managing a team. It starts with communication. You need clear and effective communication between team members. If you have somebody from outside and you say, hey, I want you in this project, I want you to help us create a cool game, that person needs clear and effective communication. That person needs to know at all time, what do I need to do at any given moment? And then the question is, of course, how do you communicate? And also, that I had no idea. So I said, hey, everybody, we're just going to communicate over email. So whenever anybody in the team has a comment or a question or wants to share an asset, something they created, throw it in an email, send it to everybody, and whenever anybody in the team wants to reply to that, reply to all, and within no time, the inbox became a huge mess. Everybody just talking and a lot of bullshit, and it became chaos and madness. And if you wanted to look something up that was said a month ago, you had to go through all that mess. Communication was absolutely horrible. So never have communication going via email if you're working in a team. Conclusion, decreased productivity, people lose focus. That concludes to inactivity. People are like, you know what, when you get your shit together, I will come back and I will join again. That leads to team turnover, people just saying, I'm out. Then you need to manage that. You need to say, okay, that person is out, I need to find somebody else. But there's no point finding other people if the whole structure that you're working on is just not in balance, that it's just all falling apart. So as a result, at a certain point, the project completely stopped. Then I said to myself, maybe working in a team is not for me. Maybe this is something that I can't handle, or maybe we need somebody to manage that. Or maybe it's just a lack of experience. I didn't know, I really didn't know at that point. I did know that years later, when I looked at everything at that point that we achieved, which was a lot already, I said to myself, wow, this game is amazing. This game is so cool, and this game deserves to be released. And if I cannot manage this in a team, let's do it myself. I'm incredibly bad with graphics. I can code, but graphics, no. And there was still a list of, I think, 10 big end bosses that needed to be made. So I looked at existing games and I said, I'm just going to take this boss from this game, this boss from that game. I started putting ripped graphics, and I call it placeholders. So eventually they could be replaced. I finished the game all by myself, because that I knew I can, and therefore I just finished it. When it was completely finished, only then, and I said to myself, I'm not going to contact anybody until it's finished. Only then I contacted Robert again. I said, Robert, this game is too awesome. I don't know what happened in these 11 chaotic years, but this is the game. It has placeholder graphics, placeholder bosses. If you want to replace all those bosses and turn it into a completely fresh and unique game, then let's go for it. If not, then I will release this game as a tech demo. I will tell the community it has ripped graphics. I just want people to enjoy. Still that same motivation. I want people to enjoy. And yeah, I think Robert took a few minutes or hours and said, wow, I'm on board. And then all of a sudden we went into this accelerated stream of working and back and forth communication, and within no time, okay, it still took a few months, but within no time, the game got released, got finished. Another huge milestone, another huge achievement. And again, I was super, super happy. During this project, since this took 11 years, since this game was inactive for a long period of time, and somehow my fingers kept itching, and I realized working in a team is not for me, I said to myself, I just want to keep creating games. So if I suck at graphics, if I suck at working in a team, let's try a port. So again, I don't like easy stuff. I love the game Street Fighter. I played it so much on the Super Nintendo. I started communicating on msx.org again, on the forum, talking with people, hey, is this possible? A port of Street Fighter? Or is MSX not able to do that? Took me 2 months to make this. With the help of the community. Peter Mastijn, Ghostwriter P, he said at a certain point on the forum, I think it's possible. I have a new technique. It's never been done before. I call it the triple buffering technique. It allows you to put graphics in the screen twice as fast as the normal way, the double buffering method. I didn't understand anything. I asked him 10 times, can you tell me again, how does it work? But he showed me the tech demo, and I was absolutely blown away. Can I use it? Yes, you can use it. Okay. So I used his engine, made this game. This is the concept of the engine. The MSX has 4 pages in video memory in screen 5. And any frame you can switch between any of those pages. So you can choose which page is active. The engine switches every frame between page 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It rotates through these 3 pages. Page 4 always stays empty with only the background and is used to clean up the sprites. The concept is to remove sprites that were visible in the previous frame and add sprites that will be active in the next frame. So let's say the green outline, let's say page 1 is now active. This is what I see in this moment. That means that the next frame remove sprites that were visible in the previous frame. That means the next frame I want to remove these sprites, these guys, and I want to add sprites that will be active in the next frame, and I want to add my new sprites here. And then switch frame. Keep doing that. Of course, the big question is why. The MSX has a video processor that can work on copying big chunks of graphics simultaneously while the CPU is doing stuff. So the trick is you remove the sprites with VDP copies, so the video processor is removing the sprites. Video processor says, I'm going to take a chunk here, put it here, I'm going to take a chunk here, put it here, and while the video processor is erasing, the CPU says, I'm just going to byte by byte build up my new graphics here. And it turns out that those two things are equally fast. If the sprites that you copy are not completely square and completely filled in, but if they have a lot of empty space, you're not copying that empty space. Only the pixels that you want to copy, you copy. And then it turns out that those processes go parallel and they finish at the same time, roughly. So you just have copy instructions on the MSX which are twice as fast as normal. I wanted to send a message, an email to Peter Mastein, the one who made this engine. This engine is so underrated. It is such a fantastic engine that I would love if people would make games or whatever using this engine. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. I'm more than happy to share this so that more products can be made with this engine. Of course, I have to check if that's okay with Peter as well, but I hope so. Little bitch slap I wanted to show. And again. And again. Okay. So Deva finished 2019, was it? So again, a 2-year break or something. I did some other little projects, but I always like to have breaks in between projects to do other things, to have a life. I'm a musician as well. I always love to go back to music, make songs, and just have a life, because once you work on a game and you're super passionate and super enthusiastic, you can really lose yourself. I've lost myself in many of these games in the sense that sometimes I'm working on it for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours per day, and it can mess with you. It can mess with your head a bit. So the latest project that we're working on initially started with me and Robert Vroemesse. Robert again sent me some graphics. He says, I have graphics for a sequel to Lliures. Very famous game on the MSX. You probably all know it, otherwise please check it out. I saw the graphics. I was immediately sold. I said, these graphics are amazing. I got a cool idea for an engine. I started working on an engine, an omnidirectional scroll engine, in relatively small rooms. And I was thinking, I can probably also add the Street Fighter 2 engine to it for rooms where there have to be big characters, like big bosses. So let's combine 2 different engines, and in the end it became like 2.5, 3 engines. So there's different engines running back and forth. And even though Project Deva was a huge mess, with this project I was thinking I have more confidence and I have the audacity to try it again, to assemble a big team. For instance, Maarten van Striem, Wolf, which still I always thought the best composer on the MSX. I was a bit more open-minded this time for Moon Sound, which I never really liked so much. Contacted Maarten. Hey Maarten, we have this engine, do you want to join? Sure, I'll join. And then we got more people joining and joining and joining, and at a certain point it was a merry, fun bunch of people. Even we included people new to the MSX system. I found online a professional pixel artist who made huge animated monsters, and I was like, holy shit, if I can get this guy to join this project, which obviously is impossible because he doesn't even know what the MSX is, So I had to trick him. I said, for almost 20 years now, I'm working on computer games. We're going to release a big game for the PC. We're going to release it on Twitch. We all love retro gaming, and we all are enthusiasts of the MSX system. So we're also going to release an MSX version. Instead of the other way around, we're going to make an MSX game, and we're also, those kind of things. I even told him, I didn't tell him it's not, I told him we're an amateur group, so it's not going to make much money, but, I tried to do everything I could to get him to join. He joined, and he made 5 huge animated bosses, which make this game fucking awesome. Eventually, he said, I got contracted by a big company, so I have no more time. But that was okay. That was absolutely okay. The plans for this game are too big. I'm not happy with the size of the plans, with the ambitions, because all I see is fear, because all I see is the bigger a game, the bigger the aspirations, the smaller the chance that we're going to finish this. But still, with huge monsters like that requires a lot of data. We have Moon Sound, 640 kilobytes just for samples. It's a lot of data. 36 channels for the songs, that's a lot of fucking data. Then somebody says, oh, I want at least 1,000 rooms. Okay, let's say 1,000 rooms. That's a fucking lot of data. So we started with 2 megabytes, absolutely no chance. We went to 4 megabytes, and at a certain point we're like, we're on the limits. So 4 megabytes went to 8 megabytes, and we now have a huge project, and we're all enthusiastic, we're all very aligned, and we're going to do absolutely our best to finish this, but it's massive, so we'll see where the ship lands or strands. At the MSX Go to 40 event, we had a presentation. This is a little part of that presentation. Today at the stand in the corner, I also showcased the latest work, where you can see several areas and more monsters in screen, weapon systems. But this is just to get a general idea. So, back to business. Management. This time we have to do it good, because this is not Deva. This feels 10 times as big in size. If this doesn't get managed properly, this game is never going to get released. So let's start with that first thing that went absolutely wrong in the previous project: communication. We need to have a workspace. We need to have a place where people can come together, share their ideas, or talk shit, share their assets, have fun, feel good. A place for our team in which we all are happy to work. We decided Slack. Slack is a program either online or you can download it for your browser, in which you can create different rooms. On the left you can have a room for music, a room for code, a room for graphics, whatever. You can go to any room and just talk or share, and whoever is interested in that can then reply to that and communicate. And it goes so smoothly and so fluently that I feel already that this is a check, and this is already a huge improvement on our previous project working as a team. Second thing, documentation. Yeah, sure, documentation. How did I do this again? What is the address of sprites? Where did I put my sprites? Where did I put this? Sure, sometimes I write some things down. Just a little notepad, some little notes for myself. This project is a bit bigger, and I didn't realize it at first, but it is extremely important to document a product, a game, as thoroughly as possible. So we have a huge document in which we put everything that we can think of that's important for the game. Everything. What are the specs of the game? What program do we use to build maps? How does that convert? How do we load that? How does the engine work? Things about the amount of worlds or the palettes used in the world, the storyline, anything you can think of. Give it a place in the documentation, and then whenever somebody has a question, you say, the documentation is there, read it up, then you know how that works. Now continue working. And that works very, very well. If a project is big, but also if a project is small, be always very careful with scope creep. So people tend to say, what we have now is amazing, and even though we have everything planned out, we have everything documented, how the game should be, so we know where we need to go. We see the finishing line, we know exactly what we need to do. Still people will say, the game is great, but, last night I had this idea, we can add another engine or add another boss that does this and this, or we can add another world, or we can add another, and that's scope creeping. Basically people say, oh, we can do more and more and more and more. And every time somebody says something like that, open your ears, be patient, listen to the person, and when they're done talking, you say no. And you continue with the game, because otherwise you lose overview, the game becomes too big, you will never finish it. Focus, 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 focus. So make sure you connect with the people. Are you focused? Do you know what you need to do? Is everything going okay? Do you need help with something? All of a sudden you're not just a solo programmer, but you're trying to manage a team. And that takes a lot of energy as well. But I wouldn't say unfortunately, it's just a skill you achieve, but it's part of game development. So the same with conflict resolution, handling disagreements. Even if it's disagreement like this scope creep and you say no and people say but, no, but, you can have conflicts. Or people say, or for instance, one of the conflicts that I had was that at a certain point I said, guys, 1,000 rooms, 20 different worlds, 10, 20 huge bosses, 10, 15 different unique weapon skills, etc., etc., etc. It's just too much. So at a certain point I said, guys, everybody come together, meeting. Sometimes you have a monthly meeting on Skype, for instance, get everybody focused, back on track. Without preparing the meeting, I started the meeting by saying, we're never going to finish this. We need to cut. How about 20% less rooms, 800 instead of 1,000? How about 5 less bosses, 5 less skills, etc., etc. So I came charged with a machine gun into the meeting, and I didn't anticipate, and that resulted in a huge conflict. A conflict that was so huge that people said, if we're going to do what you propose, then I'm out. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't expect this. I'm not the only one who dreams of having an amazing game. Those people also dream of having an amazing game. And they also have their vision of what the end result should be. And I just stamped that in the ground. Okay, so learn from that. Next time, have a different approach. But those kind of things, all these things that you all of a sudden encounter, which you were not aware of or didn't have any experience with or never happened before, or you just worked solo on games. And there are other things like technical challenges. This is not possible, how are we going to do that? All these kind of things. Overall, we're still working on this game, and it can take still a while, but everybody's view and opinion at this point is extremely positive, and we're going in the right direction. And I absolutely really hope to release this game, because I think this is going to be the best game ever on the MSX. And that's my dream. And even with this game, even with USAS 2, working in a big team means you cannot just go on and code and code and code and code and constantly work, which sometimes I feel like I want to do, because all of a sudden you're working in a team and you need to wait for that and that and that and that, and you ask for that and ask for that. So with a huge team, with a huge project like USAS 2, there have been a lot of moments in which I felt like, I want to do something, my fingers are itching, I'm just waiting, I'm waiting. So fuck it, let's just make another game. I made another game, I finished it. I also showcased it today a little bit in the corner. I used to love the game. I love the game Heroes of Might and Magic a lot. It's such an amazing game. It's a online strategy, multiplayer strategy game, turn-based. And I was like, what if I port that game to the MSX? And I just did it. And again, I go back here to the idea of my fingers are itching, because there's a lot of downtime when you work in a team. So let's just work on a project I can do on my own, just like Street Fighter, which means, because I still suck at graphics, let's do it solo. So another solo project. The game has three big features. There's a world map. You have a character and you walk over your world map, and the characters are famous characters from famous MSX games. I included about 80 different characters. You see here Benson Cunningham from SD Snatcher, and the game is completely full with MSX characters. You walk around the world map, you explore, you collect resources, you can run into a monster, and then you have a fight. So you have a battle screen. Battle screen is also turn-based. You move each of your units individually, you destroy the enemy, you collect experience, you level up, you can find weapons on the map, and then the goal is to eventually reach the other player. You can play up to 4 players maximum, and have this final clash, this final battle, in which you are both level 20 warriors or wizards with a huge army and a lot of magic spells, etc., etc. You have, you start with one castle, you can enter your castle, you can build one building per turn in your castle, and a building will give you monsters, or new magic skills, or things that produce resources like a mine, or just other stuff that help you advance in the game. One thing that I like about this game is that I'm very, very interested in AI, and I'm very interested in including AI in my projects. So in this project, I use AI for graphics. I even use AI for code. I even say to the AI, for instance, if I click on the map, I want the computer to calculate the shortest route to that point. What algorithms exist for that? And the AI says, ChatGPT, for instance, says, these and these and these algorithms. Can you program the shortest path routine for me in this language? The AI programs it for me. And then, of course, I have to translate it to the MSX, because if I say program it in Z80, it's not good at that, but times will change. So I'm very enthusiastic about collaborating with an AI assistant in the future and just working together with an AI making games. I'm super thrilled about that. I say to the AI, I want to have a castle screen. I want you to make me a castle and a barracks where you can recruit creatures. Sure. AI spits this out, I throw it to a converter, and I put that in game. uh, add me a blacksmith, add me a mage guild, and again, the AI adds buildings and I convert them and I add it to the game. I want to have a marketplace where you can trade your resources. Sure, how about this? Yeah, sure. He gives me a few examples, and most of the time the AI has it spot on, and that's really awesome. Convert it to the MSX, and great, I'm done. I don't have to draw, which I can do anyway. Of course, there's a difference in style between what the AI produces and then what you see in the rest of the game on the world map, etc. And that's up to you if you like it or not, but you can work with it. I want to be able to collect a scroll in-game. Draw me a cool scroll. Cool, I love it. Put it in-game, convert it, sure. The player collected a nice scroll. Fantastic. So that brings me immediately to my outro. I'm very excited about working more with AI in the future. I'm very excited to work on more MSX products. I'm also excited but scared at the same time to work on products for other platforms. For instance, with USAS 2, we had the idea, which became less and less. When it's done, I can also port it to the PC, make a PC version, release it on Steam. But I'm getting more and more scared about that because I realize it's a lot of work, and when I release it on Steam, I don't have the skills to reach people. So my fear is that I'm going to put a lot of time and work into that, and it's just going to get lost in the millions of games on Steam. So I'm thinking a lot about that, but I think I cannot do that on my own. But I would be very happy to have a future in which I could do what I love to do and earn a bit of money with that, which at this point, for the last 20 years, has not been working, the money-wise. So it's always hobby project next to, and for me it's always been my entire life next to some shitty job that I do to survive. That's my future goals, my ambitions, my reflections. This is my talk. I thank you very much. Any questions?
One moment, I will give the micro.
So thank you for the, is it working? Yes. So thank you for the talk, it was quite interesting. So I have a question regarding your first project, so Space Mambo 2. So you said that in 1 month you were able to do that scroll. You code before that, right?
Basic.
But just basic?
Tiny little bit of basic, which was 15 years prior to that as a little kid, a little bit in basic, just a little bit.
Okay, so you don't have a work, so for example in coding in general?
Zero, but I have a mind that doesn't stop, and I'm technically coding while I'm sleeping. I've had many nights in which I'm lying in bed, I can't sleep, and I'm just working out problems to solve. I'm working out how to solve problems, and I'm just coding and coding. Oh, it could be like this. In the morning, get up, and you know, I get restless, and that means that I can do something in 1 month which normal people would do in several months. So I go too hard, which is unhealthy, but yeah, I achieve things very quickly.
Okay, it's quite amazing what you got there in 1 month.
Thank you.
So that's my main question.
Yeah.
¿Més preguntes? Vinga, un moment.
Thank you very much for your speech. I was wondering, did you consider to take in the large group project to take someone else as the project manager and you being the project director or the game director, so someone else could be taking this task that I understand is not your greatest desire?
Thank you for the water. Kind of. Initially, no. Initially, because you don't really have an idea of the scope, the size of the project. So initially no, but at a certain point, I did realize a project like this has to be managed, and now I'm doing that, and it would be nice, it could be nice if somebody would do that. But then my first question is, who would be crazy enough to join a project just for managing? My thought with managing is like people who manage, managers, like, and then I reflect to all the shitty jobs I've had, office jobs. I don't like those people. So who would like to just manage a project like this, just to tell to people, come on, come on, come on, come on, or try to get everybody focused. So yeah, I had the thought, but I never thought of who could we get on board to do that. And I also never threw it in the group like, hey guys, I have an idea, should we look for a manager? I never thought about that, so I thought about that. I'm sure other people also thought about that, but we never worked that out, talked about it. We never looked for somebody. We never knew where to look. I just don't know anybody. But yeah, good question. Yeah.
The industry, the computer industry at the very end, and the game developing industry at the very end, has very specific roles for project management and project director and such.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that even if it's not professionally, but there's going to be a lot of people it's really liking. So I am a project manager myself, not in game designing. So for me, it's strange because the kind of problems you have been having here, something that's been very, very work in the past, and something is very usual and very common.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a surprise. But I understand your point because if maybe nobody's talking about it, but yeah.
Send me a message. No, I'm serious. Send me a message. I'm also afraid that when you include somebody to do management, that other people will feel attacked. That other people will feel like, why is this guy telling me what to do? But that's simply because I have no experience whatsoever with management, people to manage things. But yeah, absolutely a good question. Yeah.
¿Més preguntes?
Hi, Matt. Thanks for your talk. Very inspiring. A lot to learn about it. So, regarding your experiences with previous team projects, and given that you are quite excited and thrilled with the use of generative AIs as your sidekicks, so to speak, how do you envision future projects with team members again? Are you? Will you be avoiding them as much as possible, or?
I don't know. I don't know the balance between how much do I love working in a team versus the necessity of working in a team. I haven't reflected that enough. I do know that I'm very introverted, that I'm a solo warrior, and as I just said, I'm very enthusiastic, almost a bit too enthusiastic, because I don't need anybody else. I don't need this. It's exhausting working with other people. It's exhausting. It's really heavy. It's really a burden. That's why 2 times during big projects like this, I go back to solo projects. So I tend to say that I will be selfishly going solo more and more if AI provides me what I'm looking for, which I do expect. So when AI becomes smarter and smarter up to a point where, for instance, what if the AI is so smart that you can say, hey AI, here are all the mega ROM MSX games of Konami. Study them. What do you learn? Let's make a game together like that. And then, who knows, maybe you can make a game like the big mega ROM games of Konami in a week time with your AI assistant. And all you need to do is say, I like what you did, change the main character. I like what you did, change the palette a bit there. I like what you did there, change the game mechanics. So you're guiding this assistant who's programming and who's doing the work for you. And I think that's incredibly awesome, and I'm enthusiastic about that. So I do expect that I will be working more solo if AI advances the way I'm envisioning it. Yeah.
So another question regarding the the framework used in team projects. You mentioned huge improvement in communication by using
Slack.
tools like Slack.
For instance.
Do you have any other tool in mind that was used during these team projects that improved any other aspect
Yeah,
of
many.
communication?
Many. With users too, we've been developing tools, and we're using a lot of tools actually. Example, a simple tile editor. We use Tiled, very famous pixel artist tile editor. Is that me? So for instance, we use tiled, and then with tiled you can create a map, and then you have a map. You have a map file, and that map file you just need to add in your library of files. Give it a place there where you have all the other map files, and the same with music files and stuff like that. At a certain point you have more than 1,000 files, easily. So what about we create a tool that automatically converts these maps, inserts them in the ROM. We don't even have to assemble anymore. We only assemble that which is new, instantly insert it into the ROM, and you can immediately play it. So even if you're not a coder, if you're just a map builder who knows nothing else, you can just build your map, click on one button, the game starts with your map. Stuff like that. And we have a shit ton of those kind of tools. So everything you can think of, you can program, and that will help you make life easier for you. So we have a lot of those tools. What else? For instance, we have 1,000 rooms, and they're not all next to each other, so they're like rooms here and rooms there. So then Robert Vroemense comes to me and says, I just made an overview of all those rooms in Excel. Okay, well that's great, and that's nice, but yeah, that's Excel. What are we gonna do on the MSX with Excel? Until somebody says, hey, what if we make a tool that reads out the Excel file, translate that to all the rooms, how they should in a certain grid, in a specific file that we can then insert again in the ROM. And the same thing, if you remove a room from Excel, that room is then removed from the game. Like, how insane is that? Like, those kind of things. Like, yeah, be creative, think of something, and then say, I would like to have this tool, this kind of feature. Is it possible? Can anybody make it? And if so, yeah, then go for it. Yeah.
So this is a toolbox, a required toolbox that you have to build in order to automate or speed up
Exactly.
some parts of the...
Yeah.
What would you say would be the time ratio between creating these tools and the proper development? Is it a stone in the road every time you need the tool? Meaning, do you wait the effort? Do you need to develop that tool that might be done in a very different language, so to speak, before doing this, or just go for it?
Of course, it depends on how much experience do you have, how much conviction, how convinced are you that you're going to be able to make this tool within a certain amount of time. So if you have an idea of this specific tool, I could probably do that in 2 weeks' time, and then you can see that would probably save us like 2 months of work if we would not have that tool. So yeah, there's always this balance of, is it worth making this tool? And sometimes a tool like that is necessary because all the tools that we have built, they don't only save time, but they make things, they make the overview of everything more clear in such a way that if you wouldn't have this tool, things would become so chaotic that it would probably not be manageable. So some tools are so essential that we would not even be able to make this game without those tools. Yeah.
Thanks, that was all. Thank you very much.
Bé, aquí me parece que se acaba. No sé si alguien tiene alguna pregunta más, porque ahora va a empezar el concierto. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to synchronize a project, a big project with a big team, the music. Do you adapt the game design to the music? Did you had to adapt the game design, or not?
If you give your microphone to the person next to you, this is not my field of expertise.
Well, no. I mean,
so sorry. He's on my team. Sorry, he's on my team, and he can answer.
Game design, sometimes the music should be adapted to the game, or the game should be adapted to the music, or the third option, it's neither of those.
Yeah, I cannot.
Which of those three options did you find?
That's a difficult one. Most of the time, I create the graphics. Then I'll create some mock-ups of this world looks like this. Here are some pictures. There's lava. There's monsters. There's ice. Could be anything. And then I go to Maarten, to Wolf. I tell him, hey, here are my pictures. For the music, I wanted to be a little bit like, for example, Jean-Michel Jarre meets, Atari Teenage Riot, meets Cradle of Filth. It needs to be evil. It needs to be a certain atmosphere. I provide him with some musical links from, this is what I had in mind when I was drawing, designing the world. And then I wait a few days, and he gets me exactly the song that I had in my head. So that's how we work at this moment. I create the graphics, and Wolf creates the songs afterwards. But we talk a lot, and we discuss a lot. Sometimes my vision for the music is not the vision the other team members have in mind, so I get overruled. So fucked up. He's the one who's overruling me sometimes. He's on the team as well. Did this answer your question? Okay.
So consciously, I try whenever possible not to engage in certain aspects, because if I put my head into everything, it becomes too much for me. This is one of the examples. I don't pay attention to the music. I say, if you can handle that without me, please do it. Whatever you do, I'm okay with it. And that's part of accepting that you're not in control 100% of your project. Let people do their thing and be okay with that.
Okay, I think we are. Then I think we are at the end. Thank you very much. I have a very short question, if about users too.
Yeah.
If there was a progress bar, where are you at this moment?
I would say between 20 and 40%. It's hard to estimate, which translates to 2 to 4 years of work, probably.
Oh my.
I know, it's too big. We will have another meeting about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.